every time things don't go exactly as we hope. And when they go really, really awry, you get to that place of kind of helplessness. And whether you call it an ego death or it is traumatic enough to feel, or it is actually someone else's death or a birth, right? Like those very life altering moments are the signal that actually you're just about to reach that fertile ground where you get to make the decisions again and start rebuilding and start changing how you make your decisions.
Nicole Centeno, welcome to the show. We're so excited to have you.
Thanks so much for having me.
I'm so excited. Nicole is the founder and co-CEO of Splendid Spoon, which I'm sure many of you have heard about. It's a plant-based meal delivery service. Before the show, we were just talking about how much I love it because Nicole and her generosity has been sending me some goodies. It is so, so good. If you haven't tried it, get on it. But we're excited to have you on the show and talk a little bit about your experience starting Splendid Spoon and just as a human being as well. Just life. So can you tell us a little bit about how you got started and what brought you here?
So I have always been in love with food. Food is like my love language and is my creative medium. And when I went to college, I actually studied biology and ended up in a lab looking at diet as a way to help heal diseases like epilepsy and cancer. And so we looked at calorie restriction, we looked at the ketogenic diet, and it was really powerful to sort of unite my love of food with also the function of what we eat. And so I just kind of like always continued to follow that thread even when I ended up in like a day job in a cubicle in the media world. I ended up going to culinary school at night to then fine tune my skill set in making food just taste delicious for the sake of tasting delicious. And it was actually when I was pregnant with my first son, Grover, who is now 10, that Splendid Spoon, the idea really came to me because I knew with my ambitious lifestyle, I would be a working parent. And I also had a lot of high standards for food that would taste great and also be good for me. And so Splendid Spoon was really born of all of these things. And being pregnant and realizing that I would be even more busy and have less time to cook for myself was like the true catalyst.
So how long ago did you start Splendid?
It was just about 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago, almost 11 years ago now, actually.
I'm always so in awe of all these women who say like, well, it was when I was pregnant that I started this. How did you start a business pregnant? I'm assuming you also had the current job that you were at, or did you leave that job, focus on this full time?
I definitely had a side hustle while I was working my full-time job. And then right before Grover was born, I had quit that job, but was working like at different catering gigs and also selling food to my coworkers. So Splendid Spoon, even though it hadn't fully formed, was sort of like in the works.
Yeah.
It was like gestating at the same time that I was pregnant, I would say. And I think that something happened in me when I was pregnant where I felt there was that feeling of like, you only have one life and like, what do I really care about? And I think that becoming a parent crystallizes the few things that are very, very important. And for me, my career and like what I do every day and what I leave behind and how I feel after I've done a bunch of tasks and go to bed at night, like really, really matters to me. And that was one of the things that I became very fixated on.
Yeah.
It is a funny phenomenon, though. There are a lot of women who I think hit that realization and choose to do very bold, maybe illogical things. It's been a real journey and a roller coaster, but I am very grateful that that was one of the big catalysts and lessons that I was able to take away from being pregnant and being in that state.
And then since you've also had 2 more children, right? You have 3.
I do. I
And
have 3 kids. Yeah.
so, I mean, what has that journey been like then having your own company, starting this company from scratch, having 3 children? Is life just kinda crazy all the time?
It's it is kind of crazy. I think that one of what I didn't realize I was doing when I started the business, but has become very central to what I do is um, taking that concept of like women can have it all and really being very intentional about what balance means for me because both being a parent, being a present parent, and being um, someone who takes on challenges at work, like both of those things are very, very important to me.
Mhm.
So I have found it to be sometimes maddening because there isn't a lot of permission, I think, in society and in the working world to prioritize your family. But because I have had this privilege of building the business myself, I have really tried to lean into that and really prioritize that as a as an effort to say like you really can. It means that there are trade-offs. Like I do have to leave my working projects at 2:30 in order to pick up my kids, and sometimes I do have to pick up my laptop again after they've gone to bed, but being really thoughtful about how to carve out boundaries has been wha the main way that I've been able to do it, I would say.
Have you received pushback as you've created those boundaries?
I actually think the loudest pushback has been my own internal critic.
Hmm.
It took me a long time. That example that I just gave of, like, leaving work at 2:30, it took me until my 2 boys were, like, 3 and 4. So solid, like, 3 to 4 years to, like, look at myself and say, this is your business. You make up the rules. If you as the CEO and founder want to leave at 2:30 and set a precedent that working parents can have a flexible work schedule, that is 100% possible. Um, so that was probably the loudest critic, but I would say that, there are other sort of cultural things around work travel and expectations of dropping everything to solve a problem. That definitely that doesn't stop. Like that is ongoing.
Do you think though, for all of the parents that don't own their own business, do you think it's really realistic to be like, women can have it all? Because I just like I sometimes I feel like that's just a lie that we're trying to tell people, and it's like you said, you have to make trade offs. So like having it all,
Yeah.
maybe not. You can have what you prioritize.
I mean, I don't really think for a lot of women and most women it is true. And I do agree with you that it is a lie. It's a lie because we don't get compensated for the childcare that we provide
Yeah,
and the
yeah,
house care that most of us provide. So until there is something systemically that financially compensates women for that work, it will not be possible. Um, and I don't think I knew that that was part of what was driving me to build my own business, but that has been one of the central lessons and motivators for me to keep going.
absolutely. Well, I do feel like being the boss of your own time is as close as you can get because when you're on someone else's timeline,
Yeah.
there's only so many concessions you can make. And like you said, it's just hard because I'm like, okay, now women are expected to like you have the full-time job, then you get home and that's still your full-time job. Like
That's
we gotta
right.
equal it out somehow.
Right, right. And I mean, there are things that you could do with your partnership. And, if you're fortunate to have family who live close by, I'm a big proponent of embracing a village mentality. But again, sadly, like not everyone lives close by to an extended family who is healthy and fit and present and not also working their own full
Yeah.
time jobs to contribute without pay.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Like that and that was one of the first, really challenging experiences that I had early on when the business hadn't really taken off yet. And I was pressured in my first relationship to like make a decision. Do you want to continue investing time into something that isn't contributing to the household income or like stay at home? And I chose option C, which was raise a little bit of money so that I can pay myself to pay a nanny.
It's interesting that the options would be, or do you want to stay at home, which contributes financially
Yeah.
just in a lot of different ways. Like it is, I love
Yeah.
those stats that are like if women were paid full time for their jobs, it would be like $350,000 a year or something as like homemakers.
Right.
I love that people don't
Right.
consider that a job. It's a
It's a job.
24/7
It's
job.
labor.
It is
Yeah, and
labor.
it's labor.
100%.
It's mental and physical labor. 100%. Yep.
If you are listening to this podcast, you are probably a fan of inspirational quotes. And if that's the case, then you should check out my book. I feel that it's a cute little retro book with each chapter being a different emotion and then quotes that can help you with that emotion. So if you're looking to support me or the show, if you need a cute little gift for a friend or just something to flip through when you're feeling down one day, then this book is for you. You can purchase it at quotesbychristie.com, which is my website, or the link will be in the show notes.
Well, I would love to know throughout your life, throughout your experiences, if there's the best piece of advice you've ever gotten.
I read an interview with Whitney Wolfe Herd, who's the founder of Bumble, and she said, never be the smartest person in the room. And that has been a really consistent piece of advice that I embrace. I love that one.
How do you feel like you've implemented that into your life or maybe your career?
I think that it has really pushed me to understand the few things that I'm good at and the many, many things that I'm really not good at, and to be comfortable building and asking others to like step in and take the reins. Um, it's a very humbling experience to sit in a room and really feel like people are speaking a different language than you. But to also know and appreciate that those skill sets are required in order for you to make better decisions and build a stronger team. So, like,
Yeah.
I'm a creative at heart. I love product. I love audience and market, and I have a very clear vision of where I think we should go. But I'm a terrible operator. I'm horrible at execution. Like it takes me a long time of staring at the spreadsheet in order for my brain to kind of like click into motion on finance and accounting. So if I want to move and be productive, I have to really know when to step back and shut my mouth.
Honestly, I feel like we have this false notion that the smartest person in the room is good at everything. And I actually think the smartest person in the room knows what they're really dumb at. I feel like they're the ones that can acknowledge I'm not good at this. And I feel like good leaders show that over and over again. But people who aren't leaders seem to think like, well, I can only lead if I'm good at every aspect of the business.
Well, and I think there's different types of intelligence, right? Like
Oh,
there's
absolutely.
different, right? There's analysis, and there is also very high level, long range thinking. Like you need all of those different ways of using your brain, and no one person uses the brain at the same time in all those different ways.
Absolutely. I love that piece of advice. I think it's so pertinent to so many aspects of your life, especially like friendships and relationships as well. Like you want people to challenge you.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I mean, and I think I definitely can feel it if I'm surrounding myself with an echo chamber. You start to feel sort of like fuzzy and like you're not really doing much.
Do you have a worst piece of advice you ever gotten? Maybe while building your business or also as a parent or in a relationship?
I don't think this was necessarily advice, but I've had multiple male investor types tell me things like, just smile.
Mm.
Like, like if you just smile, everything will be like, it sounds really ridiculous,
Oh
but that's
gosh.
like really has been said to me. And I don't think it's the words necessarily that bother me so much as it is how demeaning. It's just like a demeaning thing to say to any leader, that something you can do with your face will get you through a challenging situation. I mean, how ridiculous.
Is that like real advice that we're still saying that to women?
Some people are, yeah. I think so.
Have you experienced a lot of other I mean, it's just so interesting to me. I feel like people think like there's so many female founders and CEOs, like people must be used to it, but have you experienced a decent amount of sexism, do you feel like still as a female CEO?
I think one of my coping mechanisms is really to like totally put the blinders on, and if I hear it, not even pay any attention to it. Um so it's sometimes challenging for me to um like synthesize it and be like, "Oh yeah, definitely there's like this example of sexism and in this example of sexism." I do think it's a bit of like we live in a sexist society. I mean, coming back to that original example of like who is compensating the caretakers in our society, like we live and breathe that every single day. And the reason that there are few female entrepreneurs is because women don't feel safe to take risks. Like being an entrepreneur is inherently risky, whether you're a parent or not. And if you are a woman, especially who has chosen to be a parent, even if you're a woman who has chosen not to be a parent, you are in the body that society says should not be taking risks.
Yeah.
So I don't know that. So, I mean, yes, in the sense that like we all experience sexism because we live in this world. Um, and I also feel though that part of what has given me the coping mechanism of building a business and um the objective reality of like performance being what you're judged by is can be very comforting, right? Like being able to walk into the boardroom and just have your metrics speak for themselves
Yeah.
um is very is a really really like it's such a sense of relief to get to that place and know that the work is speaking for itself. Um, so I have also experienced that. I have also experienced that, yes, ultimately the work can speak for itself.
Yeah, we can all agree on the numbers, man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, I was reading your interview with The Cut and reading about kind of like some of your experiences. You got pregnant, and then with your second child, you got pregnant a little bit unexpectedly, and then you had a kid during COVID, and just like it's been a tough ride for you, I feel like personally. Is there a lesson that you learned through some of those, I'm sure, very difficult moments in your life?
It's true. I have had a lot of time, like the timing has been really unique in that, especially having Charlotte right at the beginning of COVID. Her birthday was March 13, 2020.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
like I think what it has taught me is ultimately as humans, there's really very, very little that is in our control. And a lot of our experience is trying to control things and trying to control outcomes and trying to improve our own or our families or our businesses' likelihoods. And we will be shocked and surprised and traumatized every time things don't go exactly as we hope. And when they go really, really awry, you get to that place of kind of helplessness and whether you call it an ego death or it is traumatic enough to feel, or it is actually someone else's death or a birth, right? Like those very life altering moments are the signal that actually you're just about to reach that fertile ground where you get to make the decisions again and start rebuilding and start changing how you make your decisions, right? Like, I think life is full of these death and rebirth cycles and the traumatic event, the challenge, the like all is lost moments to me now are like such a welcome relief of like, okay, that's it. This is the end. I've hit the bottom and pretty soon it's going to be rebuilding time again. So I think I have definitely found much more flexibility and grace with those unexpected, very challenging life moments.
That is so, so beautiful. What version of yourself do you feel like was reborn from those moments? Or what characteristics do you feel like you gained?
One of the biggest experiences that I have had through all of it is, and I think my kids have helped me a lot with this, is reconnecting with my inner child, is reconnecting with the things that really do make me feel the most me. And they are really simple things. Like part of why I love food is I love making something beautiful out of something ordinary. Um, I really have reconnected with the sense of creative courage that children have of like, you know what, like I'm just going to try this and put it together in my own way and see what happens. And that's like where innovation happens. That's where again, like you realize, oh, I'm not so good at this. I have to reach out and ask someone else for help. Like really simple things that help you get through the day. Like that inner child is the essence of like getting through it, I think.
Have you found that it's hard sometimes? I felt like this even just like with my business, and I feel like I've talked to other entrepreneurs and they feel similarly. Like sometimes your entire identity you feel like becomes then this like company you have or this goal you have, and you kind of forget all those things that make you you outside of that. Has that ever have
Hmm.
you ever felt like that in your business or in your life?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think that's probably why I meditate. Like it happens all,
Yeah.
it's like constantly you get like pulled into these things that you've built or these identities that you have for other people. Like I am a mom, I am a leader, I am a board member, right? Like these identities that ultimately, um, for me, that's not when I sit down on my meditation cushion. I'm not like, I am a mom and a board, like I don't have all of these different, I'm Splendid Spoon, like all of those different buckets that
Yeah.
just by virtue of like the busyness of our life, I think you have to compartmentalize. Um, so for me, it's meditation. For others, maybe it's exercise or dance or painting, right? Like I think, and again, it kind of comes back to that, like, who are you really inside and like what makes you feel most you and helps you connect to those few things that are so uniquely valuable that only you can provide. It's work.
Yeah,
It's yeah.
absolutely. Have you had one of those or maybe several like aha moments as you've been meditating? I feel like a lot of people have these like big realizations and usually they're really beautiful. So I always love to know.
I definitely have a lot of anxiety. Like I have usually my aha moment is like I'm okay. Like all of the stuff on my to-do list, all of the expectations that I have for myself or that I believe others have for me, um, really, like, that's all noise, and I am okay and I can choose like what I want to do first. That's usually like when I open my eyes, I'm like, okay, I'm back. I'm grounded. Like, what are the couple of things that are important for me to do today? And being okay with that is a really nice feeling.
Do you have a mantra or words that you repeat to yourself? Maybe a favorite quote?
Yeah. I mean, I think this comes back to my anxiety and, just different sort of like obsessive tendencies that I have. It's a Rumi quote and it's going off constantly in my mind throughout the day, which is if I'm irritated by every rub, how will I be polished? I love it because it's like I am irritated by a lot of but like that's like how it can I find peace around that part of myself that is very sensitive and like feels every rub? And can I accept that that's actually how I'm becoming more at ease with the world around me?
Yeah, the refinement process almost.
Yeah, for sure.
That's really beautiful. Well, Nicole, this has been a beautiful conversation. I thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your wisdom and for providing everyone with Splendid Spoon, these delicious, healthy meals, and for being a mother and doing it all, and also encouraging other women and moms that they can do the same. So, thank you for joining us. I want everyone to know where they can go to follow along with you, with your projects, with your company. Maybe you've got another side hustle for all we know. Let us
Yeah, so Splendid Spoon is on Instagram, splendid.spoon. And then I am momming and making awkward mom mistakes and trying to do my best to cook dinner for my kids at the end of the day. And I am Nick Cent, Niccent, also on Instagram. I'm on TikTok too, but I think I'm on Instagram more.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us, Nicole.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Christy. This has been really nice.
It was a pleasure. To everyone listening and watching, thank you for tuning into The Shift. Don't forget to subscribe, and we will see you next time.